we have paired samples, we're going to compare the two population means using what's called a paired t-test. So let me give you some examples. For instance, let's say we had a test company advertising that they improve people's scores, and we would want to go and check customers. We would want to check them doing something like this. We would want the score before the treatment, the score after the treatment, and we'd be really interested in looking at the difference. And so this is an example of a pair. Let's see, another example for doing a paired t-test might be something like this. Suppose we had two companies and they were selling the same kinds of products, and we wanted to compare the difference between their prices. I don't know, suppose these were hardware tech companies and selling things like a mouse, a computer hardwired mouse. So we might look at the price of a mouse at company A, the price of a mouse at company B, but what we're looking at is the difference between those prices. And so again, here we've got a paired sample. So those are examples for when this might come up. And now let me talk you through how we do the hypothesis testing. Our null hypothesis is going to be always that the difference between the population means is 0. So let's write that down. And remember here, this D that I've used here in the subscript, that's the difference between the two observations. So if we were talking about the last example, I talked about the buying a mouse at company A versus buying a mouse at company B. The D there is the difference between those prices. And so our null hypothesis is that the mean difference between the samples is 0. And then our alternative hypothesis is either going to be that mean difference is not 0, or it will be that the mean difference is negative or positive, depending on the situation. And we'll do examples in the exercises of each of these. Okay, let's keep going. We start out by computing the difference for each observation. And so, like in the example of the technology company, one of the observations is the price point for the mouse. The mouse price at company A, the mouse price at company B. We find that difference. We do that for each observation. So let's say we've sampled 10 products. We need to come up with the difference in the prices of all 10 products. Once we've got all of those differences, our next step is to find the average of those differences. And I mark that with a D with a bar on it, and that's the average of all of the differences. All the differences in our sample. And this is a paired sample. Our next step is to compute the standard deviation of the differences in the paired sample. And I'm marking that with S with a subscript D. Next, we compute the standard error of the mean difference, and we do that using this formula. We take the standard deviation that we found and divide it by the square root of the sample size. And next, we compute the t-statistic. And we do that by taking the average of all the differences in the paired samples, comparing that with the hypothesized difference, which is usually 0, and divide that by the standard error. That's our t-statistic, and we use degrees of freedom 1 less than the sample size. We use the t-statistic to compute a p-value, just like in our earlier chapters. We compare the p-value to our significance level. If we get a p-value that's smaller than our significance level, then we can reject the null hypothesis. And these last steps are not new. The new part is the process for thinking about these differences. Okay, so the way we'll do this chapter, we've got an example like usual, and I'll solve the example in two different ways. And then we've got a bunch of exercises to help you practice. Good luck, and that's it, we're done.